Well, I'll tell you one thing, man. When that fire hits your ass, that will sober your ass up quickly.
If you had seen what I saw in the hospital, there would be no doubt in your mind forever. Because hell is so terrible, so awful, and it goes for eternity, not just for a week or so, for eternity, forever and ever. Once you're in hell, you're in hell. God gave you a glimpse of heaven. And it's not easy. That's someone guardian angel. And also, God's glimpse of hell. And I'm telling you now, please listen. Hell is so bad, so awful. You have no idea how bad hell is. Hell is terrible. It's a terrible place. I don't want to see anybody go there. I heard the murmurings sound like 1,000 voices, all going at the same time. It was horrible. Please listen. There was a white cloud, mist, came into the room. When I saw it and it was getting to me, as soon as it got to me, everything was bliss. Perfect bliss. I'm telling you now, you have a right of choice. And I guess I thought it would be the end of my story. You don't put your faith and trust in your money and your houses and all the material things. But you have to put it in something that does not ever change. And that's my story.
Billy No Brains was a wannabe wise guy. Big hulking kid, 6'1", 270, massive. Big toothy smile, dumb as shit. Billy's friend was robbed by a hooker. Billy was going to make it right. A girl gets in the car. She saw the car was moving. She jumped out. Billy just rolled up onto the next girl. The other girl got in and he took off. They found the body beaten to death with a baseball bat. Billy confessed to his friend, "Hey, you see that bitch on that paper? I did it." The friend eventually told the police. Murder. She gave evidence to the police. He was uncircumcised.
This was the girl who had first jumped in the car?
Correct, and then got out. Started cross-examining the girl. How old are you? 27? How long have you been on the streets? Since I'm 13. And how many tricks do you turn a night? Ooh, 7 to 10. 7 nights a week. I did some quick calculations. That's like 60,000 penises you've seen. That's enough to fill Yankee Stadium. Can you tell the difference between a circumcised and uncircumcised penis? Can you tell the difference when it's erect Yes, I can. And it's your testimony that the penis of the man that you say is my client was uncircumcised. Yes. The medical examiner comes. I said, Doctor, is he circumcised or uncircumcised? He's definitely circumcised. Is it a circumcision of long standing? The jury started to laugh. The judge started to laugh. We had to take a break because of the laughter. It worked. The jury was out maybe 10 minutes. Acquitted him completely. Billy thanked me, left the courtroom. In Florida, he killed somebody by stabbing him 24 times. And he was sentenced to death. That sentence was commuted to 10 years. 10 years later, Billy came out, back on the streets of the Bronx. This time he killed his girlfriend, and he did the right thing. He killed himself. And that bothered me, that case. Had I lost that case, had I not made a joke of it, maybe 3 people would be alive.
You believe that he committed that first murder?
Yes? What's the problem there? The prosecutor...
I went home, I can remember, I said to my wife, honey, I have finally made it. Here we are. I am a big-time lawyer. I got hired by the insurance companies, and I did. And like I say, we have all sinned from time to time. That was one of mine.
I understand there came a defining moment in your life when you actually met a client of the insurance company who had been denied coverage. He had, his leg had been amputated or something like that. And
yeah, I can remember. I wanted to impress Imogene. And I said, my wife, I said, now I want you to come to court, watch. I'm going to cross-examine this. I'm representing the insurance company. And I'm sitting over here is this, my client, who is not the insurance company as far as the jury's concerned. The insurance company is the one back here hidden behind the client.
Sure.
And we're not permitted under the law to tell the jurors that the defendant is insured. And that if the jury gives us $1 million, the insurance company will have to pay it. We can't do that. What the jury sees, this is the great lie, hear me, the great lie of the law. And here's my little client, and I've turned her into a poor little helpless floozy, and she's got a little straw hat on, and she's sitting there all helpless. And here is a multi-million-dollar insurance company behind her. Do you understand? And so I'm going to cross-examine the plaintiff. She was drunk, and she ran into him and crippled him to the place where and he was an old man who'd worked all of his life in a refinery in Casper, Wyoming. His life was over, and what he wanted to do with what was left of his life was go out with his grandkids and go fishing and have some time with his family. Instead, all he got was a bucket of pain. So I began to cross-examine him, and by the time I finished the cross-examination, he didn't look well. He didn't look good. And the jury returned a verdict against him. And I looked up, and Imogene was gone out of the courtroom. And I thought, what the heck happened to her? And I left, and I ran out of the courtroom. It was a recess, and ran down the hall. There she was. I could see her little fanny just going down the wall, or the hallway that way, and I hollered, and she stopped, and I said, where are you going? And she says, I'm out of here. And I said, why? She says, that just disgusted me, what you did to that poor old man.
How did that separate?
Well, that evening we were at the Safeway store getting some groceries for a celebration. And lo and behold, in front of me was this old man. And he turned around, and I looked at me, and he was as close to me then as you are to me, and that's as close as I'd ever gotten to him. And I could see his eyes, and I saw the eyes of a human being. And I could see his sad face, and I could see the pain that he had.
Mm.
And guess what he said to me? He said, I said, I'm sorry, sir, but that it turned out that way. He said, oh, Mr. Spence, that's all right. You were just doing your job. And I picked up his groceries, and I carried them to the car for him. And that night, Imogene and I are in bed, and I say to Imogene, is that my job? Cheating old men out of justice, is that my job?
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't answer. Now, these women, you have to be careful of these women, you understand, because they're smarter than we. And they know when to talk and when not to say anything. And the next morning, I got up having slept on that question. And I called up my partner, Bob Rose, who later became the Chief Justice of the Wyoming Supreme Court. And I said, Bob, we've got to quit doing this. And he said, Jerry, you're right. And we sent out 30, 40 letters to insurance companies that we represented, and we said, you have to find somebody else to do that job. And that was the turning point in my life.
I had a trial in which my client stabbed the guy in the back 7 times. And my defense was he kept backing into the knife. And the jury bought it. My client got involved in an altercation in his own home with a guy he met at a bar. They brought 2 girls back to his house. They were drinking heavily, doing a little coke, and partying. Words got into words. The guy came at my client allegedly with a bottle. My client had a knife, grabbed him, stabbed him in the back. 7 times. Or he stabbed him and the guy fell back a couple of times. We're not sure. See, that's the one good thing about murder cases. You have one less witness to worry about. One less witness to worry about. Isn't that right? He ain't testifying.
How can the jury fail to take into consideration 7 knife wounds in the back?
Well, you know something? If you can paint the guy who's dead as a real bastard, they'll let you go with it. The main thing you've got to convince that jury is the guy who's dead deserved to die.
Do people really think like that on a jury?
You think like that. We all think like that. You know, if you stop intellectualizing and stop looking at the facts, you'll see the same way I do. This life is a sweeter, nicer place because that person no longer exists.